Hello and welcome to today's video where I'm going to go over my broad opinions on the new Americas region being set up next year in 2025 with other aspects, but I just want to talk broadly about the concept and why I am very excited by it. I'm happy to see it. It was only a matter of time once we saw Valorant join the Americas in a region. I figured it was only a matter of time with the way the LCS money wise just seems to not do as well as you'd like in the bottom parts of their region, and then Brazil coming up, and frankly, if it was just run a little bit better financially and execute on the viewership and the potential of the region, honestly, I felt like Brazil could have out earned North America in not very long if properly utilized. And then Latin America, a region that, although struggles internationally, has a large player base, much larger than people give them credit for, as well as a very, very strong tier 2 system. And I'm going to get into these three aspects, and these three things are why I'm happy to see this. I know that when it was first brought up at the beginning of the year, some people, especially Brazilian fans, were a little afraid because I guess with Valorant, it really didn't go over as well as they would have liked it to, but they are much more competitive in Valorant than they are in League of Legends, and that's just an FPS thing with Western regions. You see Europe dominate CSGO, Call of Duty dominated by North America, and then you see Valorant being dominated by Brazil, and that's kind of the deal, right? Now, I don't watch Valorant, so maybe Brazil isn't dominating anymore. Maybe Europe's not dominating CS anymore, but I still think Call of Duty's probably being dominated by North America. So that's kind of just the vibe. The Western regions like FPS. So when we look at this, I have on the board here a triangle and arrows. Personally, I believe that all three of these regions can benefit one another. And provide something to the other two regions that they were lacking in, which I think is a big deal. And I think it makes it all the stronger. And so we're going to go over this for a minute here. So, what does North America bring to the table? Well, they bring to the table money. Now, like I said, they weren't making as much money as they were before, but regardless, those player contracts speak for themselves, right? There's a reason why imports would go to North America over Europe or over maybe even the LPL lower teams that they can't expect, hey, I'm not going to Worlds with this team, why would I go? And hell, they stopped going to the PCS as well, and they started going to Brazil because Brazil is coming up, but they weren't necessarily making the amount of money as like North America was. And you could look and say, yeah, but they don't have as many teams or whatever. And I'm going to say, look at the salaries of these players and coaches relative to North America. North America is spending a lot more money. And you could say, well, that's a negative. They shouldn't be spending as much money because the region is not getting the job done. And there's an argument to be made for that. But either way, the money is there. And it's going to help and benefit the other two regions that don't have as much funding. In the case of Latin America and Brazil. And maybe that allows sponsors to join the fray. In my opinion, no region in the world, no team in the world really truly utilizes their sponsorships to the utmost that they could to give return on investment to those sponsors. And, I think about, other sports and disciplines and where sponsors are more broadly shown, if you will, and as a consumer watching, I'm like, oh yes, I know that sponsor is associated with that team or that individual, and with that a sponsor likes that. That's what a sponsor wants, and I feel like nobody does it. North America probably does it best, but nobody really does it nearly enough, and I feel like that's where a lot of teams fall short and why they are struggling to get sponsors, and frankly, we're gonna get into the next. When we get to Brazil, we're gonna come up to this again. With Latin America, it's the tier 2 systems they have, and the player base. So the player base is going to help a lot. Latin America is going to benefit overall from being allowed to intermix with North America and Brazil more often, get more opportunities to play against better teams, and help the region just get better from top and it trickle down. Their tier 2 system is excellent. In my opinion, only Europe has a better one. I don't think China has a better one. I don't think Korea does, because a lot of their tier 2 systems are relative to the teams, like the LDL. 90% of those teams are LPL affiliated. LCK, all of them are LCK affiliated. But in Latin America, at least historically, I haven't looked, mind you, I haven't looked in the last year since they've dropped to 7 teams and maybe even 6 teams now. And that was in part why Latin America needed to merge in. That was the telltale sign of it all for Latin America. In my opinion, originally I thought it was just going to be Latin America and Brazil. But the LCS dropping some teams kind of made it seem like all 3 would end up into one Americas, just like Valorant. But tier 2 system. They had a relegation system for a long time. They have a lot of independent orgs and franchises in their tier 2 system with a lot of, I don't want to say nationalism but just a lot of fans of these teams are from these areas. Like if you have, I think Team A's, represented Latin America at MSI, but I feel like it was a very Caribbean-based team. Like possibly their team came out of the Caribbean region or whatever to end up going on and getting us opportunity in the LLA. And that's something that we don't see in the other regions because they franchised, which there are pros and cons to that. But in Latin America, that tier 2 system is honestly something that I think all regions should strive for. The opportunity for teams to come up and become a tier 1 org. And I understand, like I said, pros and cons why one franchises. I think, honestly, with franchising with a salary cap floor, keyword floor, not ceiling, franchising can be a lot more efficient because you're forcing teams to spend money. The thought of, they can be complacent and they don't have to spend money because they're guaranteed a slot, that's true. If you force them to have to spend, between $2 and $5 million instead of spending $1 million, maybe they're going to get a player that's a little more worthy of the money they're spending. But that's the thing. So the tier 2 system and player base, I think Latin America is offering that. And, a lot of, I almost said, what? If you actually look at it, that player base is a lot bigger than you think it is. And there's a lot of fans in Latin America and whether it be in South America or Central America that do, offer quite a lot to the whole. So I'm happy to see them get included in this. And then Brazil. Excitement. I know, just from my personal experience with this channel, that my most successful content comes when I talk about a Brazilian team leading into MSI or Worlds. I am well aware that if I had chose to just do Brazil overall, I probably would have had a more successful and lucrative channel. But at the same time, I'm not... Personally, Brazil doesn't offer that threat internationally to make me want to talk about them every day, because what's the end goal, right? Now, is the region getting better? Yes, but there is, and this is the big part, the excitement from those fans needs to be harnessed by Riot, by CB Lull to begin with. And, people are like, they immediately say, well, they deserve another World slot, or they deserve another MSI slot, or they should do this tournament or that tournament. No, that's not what Brazil deserves or needs. We should not be handing out slots based on fandom. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. That's a foolish thing to even think. Unless you want to have a for fun tournament where we all just sit in a circle and sing Kumbaya. I mean, we're not. This is not a real thing. That's not what competition's about. You should have the best teams there. And well, you could argue, why are the LCS at some tournaments? Why, do we have so many European teams? You should have more Korean and Chinese teams. Theoretically, yeah. But the point I'm trying to make is this excitement in Brazil for these teams, I can see in my viewership for those videos. I can see it when we see the viewership of their streams. I mean, it speaks for itself. And for the region not to execute on those opportunities and actually make money from those sponsors, I think is ridiculous. But, with the ability to now go against North America and Latin America, maybe become, maybe NA fans start seeing more Brazilian players and more Brazilian teams and the fan bases and things like that, or Latin America, and they're intermixing. And all of a sudden, maybe the Brazilian faithful can boost up North America and Latin America in terms of excitement. Not to mention, I feel like the CB and I could be wrong, this is a Western FPS sort of deal, but I think about when a player is standing up out of their chair after killing or beating another team, killing another player in game, or beating them and flaming them, right? And you could say that's toxic. We don't want toxicity. No, you don't. You don't want personal insults, slurs, etc. to be part of that. No, I don't want that. Didn't want to say but, because when you say but, everything before but is erased by everything you said after it. If you get up and you say, you suck, or, or any variation of that sort of toxicity I'm for. That sort of competitiveness I'm for. And I feel like Brazil can offer that. We're seeing North America with APA specifically start to poke the bear. And when it's weird when you do it against Eastern region teams, because culturally I don't like when you're trying to, it looks pathetic if you go do it to somebody that's literally just going to kind of smirk at you and then dumpster you in lane, and then you look like a fool. But at the same time, if you're doing it, and remember I said earlier, if you're doing it before the game, at least you put something on the line. That's a double lift thing that I've heard him say over the years. At least if you're talking shit before the game, if you're talking shit before the game, that's more valid than talking shit after the game, because there's something on the line. And I feel like Brazil can offer that. Brazil, and it's not like, I'm not saying Brazil's toxic. I'm saying they can add that excitement, that competitiveness, that's what I want to see. Passion. And you know what? Honestly, you see it in the LFL with KC fans. KC fans go over the line. You go over the line. There's no doubt about that. Like I said, personal insults, no. In-game stuff. And fans, frankly, fans don't deserve to really be in that conversation. The whole "we are part of the team" thing is absolute bullshit, in my opinion. You are not we. You're not playing on the Rift. Doesn't matter what team, what fan you are a team of. We can say "we" all you want to make you feel included, and give you a pat on the back and say, "Oh yeah, you're part of the team," but really you're not. So, but passion from the fans, that's huge. Passion from the players is huge. Like I think about Upset and Supa, that thing from this weekend, where honestly I feel like Upset has a point. I don't like the way the LEC chose to do that. I feel like if you want to do that, both of these players talk some shit. Why did you not, before the series, ask? Honestly, maybe they did. But you ask them, what do they think of each other? And then you go into that. And don't include the fans. I don't care what the fans think. A fan vote, screw that. What do the players think of each other? And, I don't want to say you manipulate it, but you try and create something rivalry wise. Try and create something where each player is like, you know what? That guy said he's better than me. I'm going to prove him wrong. And put something in the game that wasn't there before. Instead of doing it with the production team and then having a couple analysts on the desk bring it up and then have fans post in the chat about what they think. I don't give a shit what the fans think. I don't give a shit. I don't think anyone should give a shit what I think about who's better. I want to know what they think of each other. And I want that to be part of the game. I've always said that, in leagues, like, you even play fantasy sports leagues. I've said this for a long time in various platforms and games. Toxicity breeds competitiveness, which breeds eyeballs. People want to see it. And I'm not saying personal insults. In-game stuff is fine if you know what you're talking about. That's why when you have those two talk about each other, they know what they're talking about. That's the important thing. Not somebody off of Twitter talking about Targamas. I think that is bogus. I mean, that is truly... I mean, personally, I thought Upset was valid in criticizing that. I thought that was extremely poorly done. I don't want to watch a freaking sporting event in real life, watching it on TV, and all of a sudden, Joe Smith said this. Susie Q said this. I don't give a shit what those people think. What do they know about what's going on the Rift? What do they know what's going on in the field or the pitch or the court? They don't. Relative to these guys, the players, that's who I want to personally. That's who I care about. What do you guys think of each other? How do you feel? And honestly, personally, I said in the chat, Discord, what Upset did coming to Targamas' aid as part of that. Personally, I thought it was one of the biggest leadership moves I've seen in a long time in LOL esports. You don't see often where players are getting constantly flamed, where a teammate will come out and say, y'all need to cut the shit. And honestly, that's, I mean, personally, I give Upset a ton of credit for that. I know some people in the Discord immediately say, oh, I hate him so much, I couldn't even do this, there. I don't hate or love any of these players because, personalities, play style, yeah, I prefer Supa's play style over Upset, but I see pros and cons of both. There's a reason why Upsets went to international events. So that's a thing. But either way, that's a tangent from what this video is about. It's about the Americas, and I just talked about Europe for a few minutes. But the point is passion, excitement, create it. And I feel like Brazil offers that to this triangle that is in the Americas region next year. So that's it. So thank you for watching. If you like the video, like it. Subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter. Join the Discord. Become a YouTube supporter. And hope to see you again tomorrow.